Assalamu alaikum and a pleasant day everyone. My name is Modasir, grade 10 from Room 86, and today I will be discussing the topic about Marxism.
Marxism is a theory based on the ideas of the philosopher Karl Marx. Marx was born in Germany in 1818 and died in London in 1883. He is buried in Highgate Cemetery in North London. Marxism is what is known as a conflict theory because it states a society is in conflict with each other. And Marxism claims that this conflict is between the rich and the poor. Marxism, as we understand it as sociologists, is a political and economic philosophy, a view of the way things are now and suggestions as to where society is headed. The danger is that we start to view it based on what we understand about its relationship to communism and politics and oppression of the old Soviet Union. Marx never saw communism in this way. He saw it as a liberation and as a leveler, a way of creating a fairer society, and of a way of getting the best out of all people, not just those with money and power. To really understand Marxism, we need to start with its opposite, capitalism. Capitalism represents the type of society you and I live in today. In Marxist terms, it's an economic system based on private ownership of the means of production. What this means is that our society today is based on a few people who own factories, businesses, shops, and other corporations. These corporations are not owned by the people who work for them, the employees, or jointly by the employees and the owners, but by the owners only. Marx was formulating his theories during the Industrial Revolution, a time when Britain and other countries were going through a very dramatic change. The old feudal system, when lords of the manor owned the land, meant that the ordinary people had freedom and rights to all land. It was held in government passed the number of enclosure acts in 1700s and 1800s. Ordinary people no longer had the right to live on this land, and many of them were forced to pack up and move to the towns and the cities, which were beginning to grow due to the increase in factories. Whereas previously people were free to keep their own animals and grow their own crops in common land. Once they reached the cities, they had to find work in the factories in the employment of the factory owners. The work was hard and often dangerous, and the pay was very poor. Many factory owners didn't want to pay high wages because this would mean less profit for them. So children were often used as cheap labor. The Industrial Revolution promoted a capitalist way of thinking, what we call a capitalist ideology, and also created two distinct groups of people. The factory owners, who were middle class, Marx called this the bourgeoisie, and the workers were working class, Marx called this the proletariat. Marx was on the side of the proletariat because he saw them as being treated unfairly by the factory owners. Not only did Marx see them as being treated unfairly or being oppressed, he also saw the system as one that tried very hard to make sure that the poor stay poor and rich continue to get richer. So Marx views capitalist society is being based on a system that encourages inequality, because the rich will always need someone to do the work they don't want to do. It's called a conflict theory because society is in conflict, the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. However, Marx also suggested at some point the working class would realize that they had the power to change things through education and personal development. Some members of the proletariat would begin to understand the system better and devise a way of changing it. Marx believed that such radical change could only come about through revolution, when the workers rise up and overthrow those who are treating them unfairly. In place of capitalism, a new system would be established in which all people were treated casually and all the factories and businesses were owned by everyone. In other words, they were communally owned. Marx called this system communism.
Thank you for watching, and wassalam.